called Zucknet, was an early messaging system he built for his family so his father could communicate between the dental office and their home. Most teenagers were thinking about sports or parties. Mark was already thinking about how to connect people through technology. But here's where the story takes its first dark twist. From his earliest years, Mark wasn't driven only by creativity. He was driven by competition, by a need to win, by a hunger to dominate. He once told friends he would rather build things that make history than fit into the world as it was. That obsession with control would later create enemies that nearly destroyed him. When Mark arrived at Harvard in 2002, he was brilliant, socially awkward, and fiercely competitive. At Harvard, status was everything. You had the old money elites, the exclusive clubs, the students chasing Wall Street careers. Mark was different. He didn't care about fitting in. He wanted to build something bigger. But he also carried a chip on his shoulder, and that would become both his strength and his greatest weakness. In 2003, frustrated and bored, Mark created a website called Facemash. It was a cruel but clever experiment. Students could compare two classmates' photos side by side and vote on who was more attractive. It was designed as a joke, but the impact was explosive. The site spread across campus overnight, drawing so much traffic it crashed Harvard servers. Students were furious. The administration called it inappropriate. Mark was nearly expelled. But here's the thing, Facemash showed Mark two important truths. One, people had a deep desire to connect online around personal identity. And two, controversy and attention could spread an idea faster than any advertisement ever could. That lesson about human desire and viral spread would fuel everything that came next. By early 2004, Mark began working on a new idea, the Facebook. It wasn't about comparing faces. It was about creating a digital version of the student directory where people could post their profiles, share information, and connect with each other. He didn't know it then, but he was about to change the world. But not everyone saw him as a genius. And the Winklevoss twins, Cameron and Tyler, along with Divya Narendra, had been working on a similar idea called Harvard Connection, later known as Connect You. They hired Mark to code for them. But according to their lawsuit, instead of building their site, he stalled, delayed, and secretly worked on launching his own version, the Facebook. When it went live in February 2004, it spread like wildfire. Students loved it. The Winklevoss twins were furious. They accused Mark of stealing their idea, their code, and their future. This was the first major betrayal in Mark's rise to power. And it would not be the last. Eduardo Saverin, Mark's roommate and the first investor in Facebook, believed he was building a lifelong partnership with his friend. He invested money, handled the business side, and supported Mark through the early days. But as Facebook grew and Silicon Valley investors took notice, Eduardo found himself pushed aside through a series of maneuvers. The stake in the company was reduced from 30% to less than 1%. Eduardo sued. They eventually settled, but the friendship was gone forever. Think about that for a moment. The people closest to Mark, the ones who trusted him, ended up betrayed, sidelined, or erased from history. Was it ruthless business strategy? Was it survival? Or was it the darker side of ambition taking over? By 2006, Facebook wasn't just a campus craze. It was spreading to universities across the country and opening up to the general public. The growth was astonishing. But so were the enemies Mark was making. The Winklevoss twins took their lawsuit all the way to federal court, accusing him of theft. Mark settled for $65 million in cash and stock. To this day, the twins say justice was never served. Mark, however, was already looking ahead, because in his mind, the goal wasn't fairness. The goal was dominance. And here's where the story gets even darker. As Facebook exploded into a global platform, Mark became obsessed with one thing, data. Every click, every like, every photo, every message. He wanted it all. He believed that controlling data meant controlling the future. And in many ways, he was right. But the cost was staggering. Facebook became entangled in privacy scandals, accusations of manipulation, and even charges of undermining democracy. The very tool Mark built to connect people was being weaponized to divide them. And suddenly, the shy Harvard student was no longer just a CEO. He was a political figure, hauled in front of governments, grilled by senators, accused of having too much power. Think about that transformation, from the dorm room to the halls of Congress, from building a student project to shaping global politics. And yet, through it all, Mark barely changed his approach. He doubled down on control, on secrecy, on expanding no matter the cost. So what's the lesson here? Is it that success required betrayal? That you must sacrifice friendships, values, even reputation to win? Or is the lesson that ambition without boundaries eventually consumes everything in its path? Mark Zuckerberg's rise to power is both inspiring and terrifying. It shows us how one person's vision can reshape the world. But it also shows us the dangers of unchecked ambition, the price of control, and the human cost behind billion-dollar empires. And here's the bombshell ending you've been waiting for. Mark Zuckerberg, for all his wealth, power, and influence, is still fighting battles. Against governments, against critics, even against the very users who made him powerful. The rise is not over, but neither is the fall. The dark truth is this: You can build an empire on ambition, but whether you can keep it without losing your soul, there's a question even the richest man cannot escape. So now I ask you, what do you think? Is Mark Zuckerberg a genius visionary who changed the world?